The fluorescent lights of the Ohio Hospital for Psychiatry did not just shine, they hummed, a low, sterile, and relentless buzz that vibrated through the very walls of the ward. Sean Murphy sat on the edge of his bed, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the thin, stiff mattress. It was his first night, and the air felt heavy, recycled, and devoid of oxygen. He looked toward the door, but the hallway was a long, flickering tunnel of shadows and linoleum. Every time he shifted his weight, the frame of the bed groaned, a sound that seemed too loud in the unnatural quiet. He tried to steady his breathing, but the hum of the lights grew louder, pressing against his temples like a physical weight. He was not a patient here. He was a prisoner of the noise. He braced his shoulders, listening. The silence shattered. A staff member stepped into the room, moved behind Sean and grabbed the back of his chair. With a violent, jerking motion, he yanked it away. Sean did not have time to brace himself. He hit the floor with a sickening thud, his coccyx slamming against the hard, unforgiving linoleum. The air left his lungs in a sharp, jagged gasp. He lay there, stunned, the cold from the floor tiles seeping instantly into his skin. He looked up, expecting an apology or a hand to help him rise. Instead, he saw head nurse Tina standing in the doorway. She was not moving to assist. She was watching, her expression unreadable and detached. She caught the eye of the staff member who had pulled the chair, and with a subtle nod, she signaled him toward the office. They walked away, their voices dropping into low, muffled tones behind a closing door. Sean remained on the floor, his body throbbing, waiting for someone to acknowledge the impact. He pushed himself up, but his back flared with sharp, electric pain, forcing him to stay grounded on the cold, sterile surface. 2 hours had crawled by when the sound of shouting erupted near the station. It was Tina. Her voice cut through the ward, sharp and authoritative. Sean pulled himself up, using the side of the bed for leverage. His legs felt like lead, trembling under his own weight. He took one step, then another, desperate to reach the station and demand basic attention. But his knees buckled without warning. He crashed down, his left knee striking the edge of a tile. The skin split instantly, a dark bloom of blood staining the linoleum. He gasped, the pain radiating up his thigh, and crawled toward the counter, clutching his leg. He looked up at Tina, pleading for something, anything. Tina leaned over the counter, her eyes narrowing as she looked down at the blood on the floor, her face twisted into a sneer. "Is it about your butt?" she asked. Before he could respond, she slammed the station door shut, locking him out. From behind the reinforced glass, a wave of laughter erupted. Sean sat on the floor, the metallic scent of his own blood mixing with the sterile air. Realizing that his pain was not a concern to them, it was a source of entertainment. The laughter behind the glass faded, leaving only the relentless hum of the fluorescent lights. Sean dragged himself back to his room, the sting in his knee, a constant, throbbing reminder of his isolation. He reached for the phone, his fingers shaking as he dialed the number. For the patient advocate, it went to voicemail. He left a message, detailing the fall, the injury, and the mockery. No response. He dialed again, and again. He spent the next 48 hours trapped in a cycle of silence, his voice growing raspy from repeated frantic explanations left on a machine that never picked up. 22 voicemails. Each one was a desperate plea for intervention, a record of his decay, and a testament to his growing terror. He watched the door, waiting for a return call, a visit, or even a knock. Nothing. The system was not broken. It was designed to be unreachable. He realized then that the advocate was not an ally, but a ghost. The phone sat on the nightstand, a dead piece of plastic. He was not just a patient. He was a prisoner in a ward where every cry for help was swallowed by the sterile, unyielding walls. The silence was absolute, and it was suffocating. On the third day, the phone finally clicked. Stephanie answered. Her voice, clear and familiar, cut through the oppressive stillness of the ward. Sean gripped the receiver, his knuckles turning white, and began to pour out the reality of the last 72 hours. He spoke of the neglect, the injuries, and the absolute lack of accountability. For a few precious seconds, the hospital walls seemed to recede. He was no longer a patient in a cage. He was a husband talking to his wife. Then, the atmosphere in the room shifted. A heavy, Unnatural stillness settled over the air, thicker than the usual silence. Sean felt a change in the light, a sudden darkening of the space around him. He turned his head. A massive figure stood in the doorway, blocking the exit. It was Rail. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his presence filling the frame of the door like a solid wall of muscle. He did not speak. He did not announce his arrival. He simply loomed, his eyes fixed on Sean with a cold, predatory focus. The threat was no longer abstract. It was physical, immediate, and standing right behind him. Rail did not hesitate. He lunged, his massive frame covering the distance in 2 heavy strides. Sean barely had time to drop the phone before the force of the impact hit him. He was shoved backward, his heels skidding against the floor until he struck the heavy steel door of the pharmacy with a sickening thud. The air left his lungs in a sharp, ragged gasp. Rail pressed his weight forward, pinning Sean against the metal surface. His arm locked across Sean's chest like a bar of iron. Through the receiver lying on the floor, Stephanie screamed. Her voice was a thin, frantic wail that echoed in the small space, but it was drowned out by the sound of the struggle. Sean clawed at the arm, pinning him, his fingers sliding uselessly against the fabric, but he could not move. The door rattled under the pressure. The violence was absolute, clinical, and suffocating, leaving him with no room to move and no way to escape. The pressure against the door finally relented, but the ordeal had only changed form. Sean stumbled away, his forearm bruised and throbbing, only to be met by a new, colder threat. 2 staff members flanked him, blocking the hallway. They held a tray, the metal instruments clinking with a sharp, rhythmic sound. One of them stepped forward, holding a syringe. They demanded he accept an insulin injection. Sean shook his head, his voice strained as he explained. His blood sugar levels were stable, but he did not need the dose. They did not listen. Their voices rose, sharp and hostile, cutting through his protests. They labeled his refusal as non-compliance, a trigger for further discipline. Before he could retreat, they cornered him against the wall, forcing the needle into his arm. The cycle continued with lithium. They pressed the pills into his palm, their eyes unblinking, waiting for him to swallow. When he questioned the dosage, the atmosphere in the corridor tightened. They loomed over him, their posture aggressive, making it clear that his compliance was not a request but a requirement. He watched the medication slide down his throat, the bitter taste a reminder that his own health was being weaponized against him. Every pill was a calculated move to break his resistance. By the 5th day, the true motive behind the hospital walls revealed itself. Sean was walking toward the exit when a representative intercepted him. She did not ask about his recovery or his physical state. She held a clipboard, her gaze fixed on the bottom line. She demanded immediate payment for a $1,200 balance. Sean stood there, his hands trembling, still wearing the thin, flimsy hospital gown that offered no protection against the cold air of the lobby. The representative did not care about his disorientation or the bruises still darkening on his arms. She pressed closer, blocking his path, and demanded his bank account details right there in the open hallway. She spoke with a sharp, impatient rhythm. While other patients moved through the facility with at least a veneer of care, Sean was treated as a transaction. As he refused to hand over his financial information, the representative's expression hardened, confirming the last pretense of their mask. Sean pushed past the representative, his stride quickening as he moved toward the exit. He bypassed the media room, peering through the glass to see only dust and stacked, unused chairs. The group therapy room was equally vacant, a hollow shell where no healing ever occurred. He checked his pockets for the incident reports he had requested regarding his falls, but they were gone, vanished into the administrative void. He did not stop to argue. He reached the heavy glass doors and shoved them open. The air outside was sharp and cold, a sudden, violent contrast to the stale, recycled atmosphere of the ward. He did not look back. Every step away from the building felt like shedding a weight that had been crushing his chest for 5 days. He found a bench in the parking lot and pulled a notebook from his bag. His hands were no longer shaking. He began to write, his pen pressing hard against the paper. He cataloged the names, the dates, the specific instances of coercion. He wrote until the sun began to dip below the horizon, his focus absolute, The trauma that had once paralyzed him was now fuel. He would ensure that the doors he just walked through would finally be forced open for everyone to see.